It's finally here, guys. Every single Ascendancy and every single node on them was just announced. So let's get right into it. First up is the Sorceress's Stormweaver. We've got Scouring Winds. Exposure you inflict lowers the effective resistance by an additional 20%. Tempest Caller grants skill Elemental Storm. Trigger Elemental Storm on critical hit with spells, and Elemental Storm creates a stationary fire, cold, or lightning storm at the target location for a duration. Based on the highest elemental damage type for the hit that triggered the storm, hits which do not deal elemental damage will not trigger the storm. Rain Dancer. Elemental Storm has 150% more cooldown recovery rate. Heavy Snows. Targets can be affected by 2 of your chills at the same time. Your chills can reduce action speed by up to a maximum of 35%, 25% less magnitude of chill you inflict. Shaper of Winter. All damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. Strike Twice. Targets can be affected by 2 of your shocks at the same time, 50% less shock duration. Shaper of Storms. All damage from hits contributes to shock chance. Constant Gale. You have Arcane Surge, and Arcane Surge grants 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regeneration rate. Force of Will, 1% increased effect of Arcane Surge on you per 15 maximum mana. And Heart of the Storm, 40% of elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield. Obviously, this will be the Ascendancy you're going to choose if you want to go purely elemental damage. Next up, the second Sorceress Ascendancy that we have is Chronomancer. We've got Now and Again. Skills have a 33% chance to not consume a cooldown when used. Unbound Encore grants skill Time Snap. Time Snap manipulates time, resetting the cooldowns of your other skills. Ultimate Command grants skill Time Freeze. Time Freeze releases a large wave that stops time for all affected enemies for a duration. Duration is lower the more times the enemy has had time stopped for them. Footprints in the Sand grants skill Temporal Rift. Temporal Rift passively leaves after images of your recent past. Cast the spell to return to the oldest after image, teleporting to that location and resetting life, mana, and energy shield to the values they had at the time. Quicksand Hourglass. Every 12 seconds, gain 50% more cast speed for 4 seconds. Apex of the Moment. Enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%. Circular Heartbeat. 30% of damage taken recouped as life. The Rapid River. Recoup effects instead occur over 4 seconds. The biggest addition here is obviously the 30% of damage taken recouped as life, which is quite a large chunk of sustain. Next up, our first warrior, we've got the Titan Ascendancy. We're starting off with Stone Skin, 50% more armor from equipped body armor. Ancestral Empowerment. Every second slam skill you use yourself is ancestrally boosted. Earthbreaker. 20% chance for slam skills you use yourself to cause aftershocks. Ancestral Empowerment. Every second slam skill you use yourself is ancestrally boosted. An ancestral boost means your skill does 20% more damage and 20% more area of effect. Colossal Capacity. Carry a chest which adds 20 inventory slots. Hulking Form. 50% increased effect of small passive skills. That sounds pretty nutty. Crushing Impacts. Your hits are crushing blows. Surprising Strength. 40% more damage against heavy stunned enemies. And Mysterious Lineage. 15% more maximum life. I'm not gonna lie, this class looks kind of OP. Next up for the warrior, we've got the Warbringer. Anvil's Weight. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. Imploding Impacts. You can break enemy armor to below 0. Jade Heritage. Grants skill Encase in Jade. Gain a stack of Jade every second. And Encase in Jade consumes all stacks of Jade to grant a buff for a duration that absorbs all damage from hits, up to a maximum based on the amount of Jade consumed. While encased, you cannot move or perform actions. Answered Call. Grants the skill Ancestral Spirits. Trigger Ancestral Spirits when you summon a totem. Ancestral Spirits is each of your totems will summon an Ancestral Spirit minion to fight for you. If the totem that summoned the minion dies, then the Ancestral Spirit will too. Wooden Wall. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. Renly's Training. Gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. Turtle Charm. 35% less block chance. Can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. Warcaller's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage. And Great Wolf's Howl. Ignore Warcry cooldowns. The Titan's looking a little better to me, but this still looks pretty chunky. Next up for the Ranger, we've got Deadeye. And first we've got Avidity. 30% chance that if you would gain Frenzy charges, you instead gain up to your maximum number of Frenzy charges. That's a pretty high chance actually. Thrilling Chase. Benefits from consuming frenzy charges for your skills have 50% chance to be doubled. And we're not there yet, but considering we get an extra projectile and this can double our abilities, this is insane. Eagle Eyes. You have no accuracy penalty at a distance. Point Blank. Projectiles deal 20% more hits damage to targets in the first 3.5 meters of their movement, scaling down with distance traveled to reach 0% after 7 meters. Far Shot. Projectiles deal 0% more hits damage to targets in the first 3.5 meters of their movement, scaling up with distance traveled to reach 20% after 7 meters. So it looks like you can either be ranged or melee. Endless Munitions. Skills fire an additional projectile. Called Shots. You can apply an additional mark. Gathering Winds. Gain Tailwind on skill use, lose all Tailwind when hit. And Tailwind is a stacking buff which grants 1% increased movement speed and 3% increased skill speed and 15% increased evasion per stack for up to 10 seconds. Refreshing whenever you gain another stack. Maximum 10 stacks. That's pretty nutty as well. And then finally we have Wind Ward. 3% less damage taken per Tailwind. Dang. I can see Deadeye being pretty popular. And for the other Ranger Ascendancy, we've got Pathfinder. Connected Chemistry, 50% more flash charges gained. Enduring Elixirs, life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Life flask effects do not queue. Contagious Contamination. The most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. Overwhelming Toxicity. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies, 35% less poison duration. Brew Concoction. So we've got 5 different concoctions, and they all do similar things but with different damage types. So you're consuming charges from your mana flask to throw a bottle that explodes, dealing unarmed damage in an area. For the poison and bleeding concoctions, they have more effect, and for the 3 elemental concoctions, they cause exposure to that element. We've got Traveler's Wisdom, grants 5 passive skill points. Running Assault, 30% less movement speed penalty when using skills while moving. And Relentless Pursuit, your speed is unaffected by slows. Now, if I'm being honest, this is probably the Ascendancy that interests me the least. But maybe there will be a really strong build, and maybe some people like this. Next up for the Witch, we've got Bloodmage. Sanguimancy grants the skill Life Remnants. Skills gain a base life cost equal to the base mana cost. Life Remnants is drinks the blood of your enemy to restore life. While active, enemies you kill have a chance to spawn a life remnant, and critically hitting a target spawns a life remnant every few seconds. Picking up a life remnant grants you life, which can overflow maximum life. Vitality Siphon. 10% of spell damage leached as life. Open Sores. Your curses have infinite duration. Blood Barbs. Gain 10% of damage as extra physical damage. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. Gore Spike. 1% increased critical damage, bonus per 40 life. Sunder the Flesh. Base critical hit chance for spells is 15%. Grasping Wounds. 25% of life loss from hits is prevented. Then that much life is lost over 4 seconds instead. Crimson Power. Gain energy shield from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. This is another one that looks really strong to me. I really like the synergies here, and I can see a lot of ways that you could build this. Next up for Witch, we've got the Infernalist. Altered Flesh. 20% of cold damage taken as fire damage, 20% of lightning damage taken as fire damage, and 20% of physical damage taken as chaos damage. Bedat's Will, Bedat's Gaze, reserves 25% of life, +1 to maximum mana per 6 maximum life. Bedat's Will reserves 25% of life, +1 to maximum spirit per 25 maximum life. Bedat's Hand reserves 25% of life, +1 maximum energy shield per 8 maximum life. Man, that is a lot of benefit from stacking life. Demonic Possession grants skill Demon Form. Demon Form is shapeshift into a demon, vastly boosting the power of your spells. You gain Demon Flame every second you remain in Demon Form, causing your life to be lost at an ever-increasing rate. Revert to human form if you reach 1 life, use a skill that isn't a spell, or reactivate this skill. Master Darkness, maximum 10 Demon Flame. Pyromantic Pact. Maximum mana is replaced by maximum Infernal Flame. Gain Infernal Flame instead of spending mana for skill costs. Take maximum life and energy shield as fire damage when Infernal Flame reaches maximum. Lose all Infernal Flame on reaching maximum Infernal Flame. 10% of Infernal Flame lost per second if none was gained in the past 2 seconds. Basically what this means is you don't use mana, you have a new resource that goes up when you use abilities, you take damage when it reaches the top, and it goes down over time. It can also go down when you reach maximum. Bringer of Flame. While not on low Infernal Flame, all damage from you and allies in your presence contributes to ignite chance and magnitude. Seething Body. While on high Infernal Flame, you and allies in your presence gain 20% of damage as fire damage. Loyal Hellhound. Grants skills Summon Infernal Hound. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your Hellhound before you, and the summoned Hellhound summons a reviving Infernal Hound which ignites enemies near it. The Hound takes a portion of damage from hits for you. And Grinning Immolation. Become ignited when you deal a critical hit, taking 15% of your life and energy shield as fire damage per second. 30% more critical damage bonus. So pretty straightforward. This is the class you go with if you like fire damage. Next up, we've got the Mercenaries, and the first Ascendancy is Witch Hunter. So we've got Weapon Master. 20 passive skill points become weapon set skill points, which means this class is going to be better at weapon swapping than others. Pitiless Killer. This gives Culling Strike, and Culling Strikes kill normal enemies if their life is at 30% or below. Magic enemies are instead killed at 20% or below, and rare at 10% or below. Unique enemies are 5% and below. Then we've got Judge, Jury, and Executioner, which gives Decimating Strike. Hits against full life enemies remove between 5% and 30% life before the damage of the hit is applied. Witchbane. Enemies have maximum concentration equal to 40% of their maximum life. Break enemy concentration on hit equal to 100% of the damage dealt. Enemies regain 10% of concentration every second if they haven't lost concentration in the last 5 seconds. Concentration. Enemies have less cooldown recovery rate the lower their concentration, scaling down to 50% less cooldown recovery rate when concentration is 0. We've got No Mercy. Deal up to 30% more damage to enemies based on their missing concentration. Obsessive Rituals grants skill Sorcery Ward, 50% less armor and evasion rating. And Sorcery Ward passively manifests a protective barrier which takes elemental damage from hits until it's depleted. The barrier instantly recharges to its full value a short time after it stops taking damage or is fully depleted. Ceremonial Ablution. 50% increased effect of Sorcery Ward. Sorcery Ward recovers 50% faster. And Zealous Inquisition. 10% chance for enemies you kill to explode, dealing 100% of their maximum life as physical damage. Chances doubled against undead and demons. Now I can definitely see the power of this class, but there's something about it that's a little bit lackluster. I think it just doesn't spark my theory crafting mind. It's just a good class. Next up for the Mercenary, we've got Gemling Legionnaire. Crystalline Potential. 10% to quality of all skills. Implanted Gems. +1 to level of all skills. Advanced Thaumaturgy. 30% less cost of skills. Skill gems have 30% more attribute requirements. Integrated Efficiency. Grants 3 additional skill slots. Gem Studded. You can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. So that just completely bypasses the hard limit of only having 1 support gem of a certain type in your build. Thaumaturgical Infusion. This gives increased resistance based off the type of gems you're using. Adaptive Capability. Attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute. And Enhanced Effectiveness. Inherent bonus from Intelligence, Strength, and Dexterity are doubled. Man, this class looks good. These are just straight up buffs, and you can go any build you want for the most part. Next up, we've got the Monk, and the first Ascendancy is Invoker. We've got Lead Me Through Grace. Gain 1 spirit every 6 energy shield on equipped body armor. Gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on equipped body armor. Cannot gain spirit from equipment. And Protect Me from Harm. Evasion rating also grants physical damage reduction, 40% less evasion rating. Faith is a Choice. Grants the skill Meditate. Meditate channels to recharge energy shield. Can overcharge your energy shield up to double its normal maximum. Channeling ends when you take damage or your energy shield is double its normal maximum. This skill cannot be used if your energy shield is already double its normal maximum, or you have no maximum energy shield. I Am the Blizzard. Gain 10% of damage as extra cold damage. On freezing enemies, create chilled ground. I Am the Thunder. Gain 10% of damage as extra lightning damage. 25% chance on shocking enemies to create shocked ground. And I Shall Rage. Grants the skill Unbound Avatar. Unbound Avatar says gain Unbound Fury by inflicting elemental ailments with hits on enemies. Once you reach maximum Unbound Fury, consume it to become unbound for a duration, vastly augmenting your elemental prowess. That's not very specific, but it sounds pretty cool. The Soul Springs Eternal. Meta skills gain 35% more energy. That sounds really strong. This could be a great class if you're trying to do a lot of triggers. Sunder My Enemies. Critical hits ignore non-negative enemy monster elemental resistances. And Scatter Them to the Winds. Grants skill Elemental Expression. trigger Elemental Expression on melee critical hit. So we're seeing a pattern of critical hits on this one. And Elemental Expression creates a fiery explosion, an arcing bolt of lightning, or an icy wave of projectiles. The chance for an explosion is proportional to your strength, for a bolt proportional to your dexterity, and for a wave proportional to your intelligence. Oh wow, so it scales to whatever build you decide to go with. And finally, for our very last Ascendancy, we have Acolyte of Chayula for the Monk. We've got Ravenous Doubts, Mana Leech is instant. Chayula's Gift, 10% to maximum Chaos Resistance. Chaos Resistance is doubled. Consuming Questions, you cannot recharge Energy Shield. Mana Leech effects also recover Energy Shield. Reality Rending, 23% chance to gain 25% of the damage with hits as extra Chaos damage. 13% chance to gain 50% of damage with hits as extra Chaos damage. And 7% chance to gain 100% of the damage with hits as extra Chaos damage. That's pretty cool. Walking Dream, grants the skill Into the Breach. Creates a breach around you, allowing you to see enemy flames of Chayula. You are considered to be in a breach while the skill is active. And the Flame of Chayula means collecting Flames of Chayula grants the following bonuses. Red Flames of Chayula leech 7% of your maximum life to you. Blue Flames of Chayula leech 7% of your maximum mana to you. Purple Flames of Chayula provide a stacking buff granting 7% of damage as chaos damage over 5 seconds, and stacks up to 10 times. Lucid Dreaming. Effect and duration of Flames of Chayula on you is double. Embrace the Darkness. Remove all spirit. Base maximum darkness is 100. For each life or energy shield lost to damage, reserve 1 darkness instead if possible. Darkness reservation lasts for 10 seconds, plus 5 to maximum darkness per level. Grasp of the Void. Gain 1% of damage as extra chaos damage per 20 unreserved darkness. And Inner Silence, 50% reduced darkness reservation duration. This Ascendancy looks cool, but definitely don't go down this one unless you really want to do chaos damage. Well, that was a lot to unpack, so I'm definitely going to have to spend some time theory crafting now. But if you guys like the video, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and drop me a comment. Let me know what you like and don't like in my videos so I can improve, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching.